Hi, everybody.
Hi,
Woohoo!
everyone.
We're back.
We are back. Happy Wednesday. Whoop!
Woohoo!
We are excited to be here. We have a wonderful guest, but we'll tell you about that person soon. I am Coach Rochelle.
And I am Coach Alicia Schwartz.
And we are
The
Mother-Daughter
Mother-Daughter
Dynamic
Dynamic
Duo.
Duo.
Whoop, whoop. Listen, we have to applaud ourselves. It's been a long journey, but we're so happy to be here with all of you.
And I think you all know, too, the podcast is really based on people's stories and their triumphs and their tribulations. And that's why we have people on here to share so that it helps you, right?
Because
If
if they can do it, so could you. That's what it's really showing you.
hope, right? Hope.
Yeah, definitely.
Courage.
Hope. Yep. Courage, hope,
Strength.
love. Yeah. And
Yep.
gratitude. Whoa, gratitude.
Gratitude is the
That's
attitude.
the best. So we are going to start. If Nim goes ahead and starts the show,
She will start us with our video, and then we'll introduce our amazing special guest.
Yes.
She's very special to us.
yes, she is. She resides in our
Heart to
heart.
So,
Listen.
hello. Oh, what? Well, that was a quick.
That was quick.
That was quick.
Wow.
So we will do that at the end, so it's not a problem.
Yes.
All right. Sorry about that. We just had some internet issues. That's why the video went off first. But we played our video, and
Yes.
we are so
And
happy
we're
to be here.
back.
So, Roche,
Yep. Well, we have very special guests this evening. And, I always called her, or we always called her our sister.
from another mister.
And, and it's not often that you can call somebody your sister, or at least for myself.
Well, and mean it.
And really, yeah, totally. And so Robin Johnson has been a very, very dear friend of ours for
Oh, God.
over 10 years,
At
something
least,
like
probably
that.
more. I think it's more than that, but yes, maybe
So,
Robin can clarify.
Yeah,
when she
so
comes on.
we're going to bring Robin Johnson on, and she's going to tell us all about herself and her story. Robin.
Yes, Robin, come on up.
Okay,
There you are. Hi.
Hi, everybody.
So, Robin, before we start, I just want to read something, and at the end, I read something to set the pace out of Debbie's book, Your Holiness.
Remember
which
this?
is-
Yes.
Yay.
Mhm.
Okay. And it's beautiful. It's called Encode Me. And it says, Dear God, I am open to receiving your brilliance and your light. Rearrange my cells. Let me think, speak, and act from the holiest from myself. Let me be a vessel filled with you, my Lord. I am yours. And so it is.
And it is.
And it is so.
Amen.
So, amen,
That's
amen.
wonderful.
You got to come in.
So here I am. I have to come in. Otherwise, I disappear. Many a times I wanted to, but what the hell.
So, Robin, come tell us about
Yeah.
who you are.
I would love to know, you named the podcast. What made you name the podcast?
What you did.
What you did.
Living in the joy of oneness. What
Yeah.
what I think right now is many people in all of the chaos and conflict really want to live in joy. And to me, joy comes from being in connection with one another. So how do you live in joy without living in the oneness? You need the whole package. You need to live in the joy of the oneness. And that's kind of how I came up with that. So that's been my mantra this year. I'm just going to spend the year living in the joy. I even changed my license plate and it says joy to love. JOY, the number 2 LUV. Joy to
love
love.
it.
It's a joy to love everything. It's a joy to love you guys. It's a joy to love life. It's a joy to love. I think many of us have just lost sight of the joy. And
Yeah.
that's my mission this year, is to bring the joy back to as many people as I can.
God, that is so true.
And you know what? This world needs it so desperately.
Oh my
Even if we
God.
do it one person at a time, collectively, a lot more will really resonate with the joy and love.
And it's just like what you're saying. It could be just saying, I love you, or, you look so pretty today, or, something to bring joy to somebody, right?
To me, joy is in the little things.
Yes.
It's not something that, you waited somebody opening the door for you at the grocery store, or helping you carry some water. I mean, it's little things. It's somebody smiling at you.
Yeah.
And as we pass it around, this joy that we have in our own hearts, it's contagious.
That is
Joy
so
is very contagious.
Yeah, it is. And it's all about the energy that we carry.
Yes. And that's the important point. And that's why I'm glad to be on the show with the mother-daughter dynamic duo, because in order to have the joy, using life coaching is the best way I found to really get there and have that joy a lot more permanent.
so true.
That is so true.
And you're saying what's so true is that, I remember when our mentor and teacher, Debbie Ford, used to say, you always need a coach in life, because you can't go really without a coach in life, because you can't see yourself, right?
You can't see yourself.
So to hire someone to help you to navigate this life we're living is helpful, because it can bring more joy, like you're saying, right? It can bring a lot more joy and a lot more freedom.
A lot more freedom, a lot more joy. And it's interesting you would say that you can't see yourself, because that's what my latest book is about. It's called Ego on Front Street, and it's really about how the ego is a chameleon and it hides. And whatever you try to be, it's like, I can be that. And for those of us on a spiritual path, the ego can be very spiritualized as well.
Yeah.
I can do that too.
Absolutely.
And so for me, it was really about discovering how my ego was self-sabotaging me. If you're so spiritual, you should sacrifice yourself to help other people.
Yeah.
Well, in my own individual meditations, I'm getting, there is no need to sacrifice, because in nature it's abundant.
Yeah.
And if you're following the creator of nature, there's nothing but abundance. This whole concept of sacrifice is very man-made.
Yeah, it is. It's very it's very humanistic, right? It's like this thing that we think we have to do.
Yeah,
but that's in a relationship, and it's like,
and it never works,
and it doesn't work.
But that's the basis. I mean, a lot of our negative self-talk leads to the self-sabotage, to the self-sacrifice, and that is why coaching is helpful, to help people see what those beliefs really are.
Yep.
Because that's what's blocking the joy, not understanding the conditioning that you have had that blocks you from being naturally in joy. It's not even an effort to be in joy when you eliminate all these other things that say you should, you must, you have to be a certain way.
Yeah. And, we have also, just wanted to segue just 2 seconds, because we have Save. Hi, Save. She says, we have to be open to receiving and recognizing joy, and we all need guidance from time to time. That's so true, Save.
Yeah.
So Save is a friend of ours, and a dear friend of ours too. So she came on just to say.
That's
Which is good.
And
beautiful.
Save is helping me with my book.
Yes,
So
Save.
I'm very excited about that.
So yes, Robin, that is so
Yeah.
true, you know, but
I
Go
wanted to ask you,
wanted to
for
say
you to get to where you are, I know the journey you took.
we know the journey you took.
Well, yes. So tell us just a little bit about how you got to this place of freedom
Joy.
and joy and love. And so just give us a little bit of your background.
Okay, born and raised in Philadelphia, in the East Coast of the USA. And early on, I was a product of divorce by age 3. And I think that set the tone for me wanting to live in peace and harmony and oneness. And how do we get along? So that set me on a course to reading anything and everything I could in high school and in college about relationships, and that led me into psychology, and that eventually led me into spirituality. And so, make a long story short, I ended up studying every major religion and traveled to more than 40 countries. And I was looking for the philosophy that will allow me to live in this harmony, this peace, this joy, this oneness. And what I found, surprisingly, is you cannot reach that place from an intellectual understanding. You have to reach this place from an open heart. And that led me to Debbie Ford and to coaching in 2005, 2006.
Wow. And
Right.
you know, it's funny that you mentioned whatchamacallit, just, you know, this is what happens when you're turning 50 soon. You forget your thought. For God's sakes, I forgot what I was going to say. Oh my Lord. But what I love what you're saying is, oh, I know what it was. It reminds me of what you're sharing with being, you know, going to 40 different countries and discovering all these different ways of culture and you know, getting connected to God through different cultures and just the way they see. It reminds me of this audiobook I'm listening to called The Journey Home.
Oh.
It reminds me of that because he takes a journey, and it sounds exactly what you're saying and sharing, going to different places to discovering more of yourself through those cultures, right?
Absolutely.
So
It was fascinating to have that experience, because what I found is there were places that I found that I felt very connected. Is very mystical experiences in Egypt, in Assisi in Italy, in the mountains of Peru. I mean, there were places that I went that I just felt spiritually connected. And that just continued to heighten my awareness of our connectivity. And what I also saw is that people are people everywhere. And there's so many similarities. And the same kind of personalities you don't like that are neighbors are the same personalities you don't like in other cultures. It's amazing how much we are one. And that's what I came away with. And all of these distinctions that we have that keep us separate, from religion to race and all of these things, they're conditioned responses. That's not who we are as individuals. If we leave all the little children of the world alone without all of our negative self-talk, we would have a wonderful world.
Wouldn't it be?
Seers coming up, your granddaughter, Rochelle, that
Yep.
new generation coming in, they're the least prejudiced, they're the most understanding, they're the
Right.
most
True.
open.
That
So
is
the
so
world is
true.
moving in a new direction. It's multiculturalism, multi-plurality. It's just going to be a wonderful place to be when people are free to be who they need to be.
So
Yeah, well, that kind of leads us into
the
this
question.
question, which is so perfectly, you know, orchestrated, which is, what's the biggest lesson you learned about yourself? Through all of what you're sharing, I'm sure there's been many, but what's the biggest lesson you learned?
I think the biggest lesson I had to learn was what my last book is about. It was my own ego. because I'm a very spiritual person. So I didn't even imagine myself as having an ego issue. But for me, some of us on a spiritual path like myself, when you get information, then you think you know what's best for everybody. We will be in oneness if you only just do this.
Correct.
Be in oneness if you only just do
Yep.
Yep.
that whole idea that there is only one size that fits all for everybody's evolution is where my ego was hiding.
Mm.
And then I had an older sister who was forever saying, I don't understand you. You claim to be so spiritual, but you avoid all conflict. Don't you know that that conflict creates progress? And I'm like, no, we just need to be in peace and harmony, and that'll be fine. No, that's not what it is. And so I found that when I was willing to finally engage in the conflict, it broke down some of my fundamental beliefs about peace and harmony and happiness and oneness. And so what I've come away with truly knowing, for sure, knowing that peace is the absence of conflict, but oneness is the acceptance of the differences. I'm asking people to be in the oneness, to allow room for people to be who they are. It doesn't mean you get to dictate how they're going to be.
Yeah. Yep.
Because when we stop all of this trying to dominate and control other people, that's where the joy resides. Give people room to be who they are. If you're not in a harmonious relationship, then you're free to make other choices. All of this needing to change each other, we got to step beyond that because it's coming from a wounded place within us. This need to change the outer is coming from a wounded place within us. So as coaches, I'm sure you understand that.
Oh, yes.
Oh, I believe so.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it starts with us. And then, as you know, it's like I was blaming my mother, my sisters,
My father.
And it's like, are you kidding? It's me.
Yeah.
It's me.
It's me.
There's a gospel song that says, it's me, oh Lord, standing in the need of prayer.
Oh, I like that.
Love
Not my
it.
mother, not my father, not my sister, God. It's me, standing in the need of prayer.
Oh,
But it's really about, as Michael Jackson used to say, it's about the man in the mirror.
Oh.
Selves. It's not about other people. And as you know, it's your belief system that's the filter for your experiences. You can't get what you don't believe. So if you have all of these beliefs, even the subconscious ones, and you don't even know they're there, you have no idea that who you're projecting yourself to be is not how other people see you.
See, and Chloe's right in there with you.
She agrees with me.
She just wants to be
you know what?
seen.
She knows. She
Right.
knows. Oh my God, I love it.
So, what is the one thing, Robin, that you want people to know about you?
Wow.
It's a big one.
Yeah. So I am a constant student. I'm a constant student because I want to know how to better relate to each person that I'm meeting and encountering. How do I connect to people? And so it requires me to really listen to them, to tune into who they are and where they are in that moment. So I have a need to be extremely flexible in who I'm creating myself to be so that I can meet all of the angels unaware.
It's interesting because I remember you said to me about me not speaking to a sister. And it was very interesting for me because I have a belief about that. because of my history with her. And I haven't gotten to that point yet to really call but I did write.
Ooh.
And it was very cathartic.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So a lot of times it doesn't, mean that you have to speak to and that's, of course, I think is the best, but knowing a history and everything, and it is me, there's no question about it. I just felt it was too dangerous for me. So I wrote a letter.
Nice.
And it was a cathartic release. It really was.
All right. Well, you're addressing a point that I like to make in my coaching, and that is part of our issue that keeps the beliefs in place, the limiting beliefs, the outdated beliefs, the things that don't let us be who we need to be. It's because there is stuck emotionality. And I think of that emotionality as residual, meaning we have all had encounters that have been negative, that have been traumatic, that have been dramatic, and we expressed how we felt in that moment. Many of us do. Sometimes the problem is not to the fullest extent of what was really in there. Have you ever had the experience of walking away from an argument saying, I wish I would have said, and I should have told them, and I really thought,
yes,
that emotion gets stuck. And then you can continue to have similar related situations, either with that person or others, and that emotion is compounding itself because it's all similar and related. And what I'm saying is when you address people, either through letters or directly or telephone or face-to-face or whatever it is, you have a tendency to release the bottled up emotion. And when you release it, now the new beliefs you've been trying to implant have room to take root.
True.
But we have subconscious patterns that go on that we don't know about, and we're trying to implement all of these newfangled spiritual beliefs that we can't make stick. And unless we pull up by the root some of these old beliefs that we have by doing what scares us, by talking to people, by addressing situations. I've been going through that. I'm blessed. My mother is 85 and she's still here with a clear mind. And I'm blessed to be able to ask her about how she raised me and what I objected to. And she's able to tell me what her intention was. And then I could tell her what the result was. And those were two different things.
Yeah.
She taught me to fear authority,
Wow.
to fear her. She never came back to get me and say, as an adult, you don't need to fear authority. Sometimes you need to challenge authority.
Yeah.
So I spent a whole life responding to anybody who spoke to me with authority in their voice. Whatever they needed, whatever they wanted, even if it was against my own best interests. It wasn't until I was able to have that conversation with my mother and say, what was the point of you punishing me for having an opinion that was different than yours? Well, you just need to respect authority and you just need to do what you're told. Yeah, but you never came back for me. And a lot of people are stuck with patterns that came out of childhood that limit how they're being now as adults.
And also what's so powerful is that you, like you said, you're so lucky you get to do that with your mom, because there's so many people, as you know, walking around wounded by their past because of what their mom or their father did. Yep. They never cleaned it up, and they're just recreating it over and over and over.
All their relationships.
In every single relationship.
Yeah, but there's a problem. And that's why coaches and therapists and all people and pastors and everybody who is involved in the emotional healing work, we have work to do. It's not always easy. And Alicia, you said it from the beginning. You can't see yourself. So we have people moving around without a process to be able to address the issues that they're facing. Without life coaching, I had philosophy, spiritual philosophy, but I wasn't dealing with my emotional issues, which is why I could never live the spiritual philosophy. But
Yeah.
I didn't understand that until I got into a process with Debbie Ford. So anybody and everybody who's doing coaching, online programs, weekend retreats, anybody doing any of that, I think is needed and necessary. That's why for me personally, I put my I'm putting in the process of putting online my curriculum to give a process to people, to give principles, to give people a way to look at themselves and make some changes, because we need more of a process for people.
I agree.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
agree because like you
Totally.
said, you or my mom and I, we had Debbie Ford when she was here to train and,
Yeah.
give us those things, those gifts so we can come in. We're losing
No.
you.
Okay.
So we can then, share it with others. And I think you're right. I think people need something substantial like a process to say, okay, here's Robin's process. Now I have to look at me. So here's a process where I
Right.
can do that
Yep.
really easily
Right.
so that I can then be, and like all of this work, like we're saying, gives you emotional freedom. Who
That's
doesn't
it.
want that?
That's it. The joy lies in the emotional freedom.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it drives me crazy when practitioners are out here telling people, when you get angry, just count to 10.
Yeah. Right. Good luck.
Come on, man.
Yep.
Count to 10. No, when you get angry, and then go somewhere and sit down and say, what was that really about?
Correct.
Yep.
So if you have a process that can say, oh, that person reminded me of my mother or my sister or my father, and they never let me say what I wanted. They always interrupted me. Whatever it is, that gives you information. The conflict gives you information. And from that, you can begin to look at what belief you're holding that you're still holding that is inappropriate because it creates the chaos.
So
It's contributing to the conflict.
I have a great question. This is not anything that we spoke about, but why are people so afraid to do that?
Well, for my family, I can speak for my mothers and my sisters, because when I started coming back with life coaching and talking about you got to look at yourself, all I got was people find comfort in blaming others. Because if you acknowledge that you were wrong,
Yep.
you have to make an adjustment to how you're being. And most people don't want to adjust how they're being because they don't know where that's going to lead.
Yeah, they're afraid.
And isn't that part of being responsible?
Yeah, there's
right?
fear.
Isn't that part of like, hey, taking responsibility for what you're being or not being?
Do you know we live in a world of a bunch of irresponsible children that are running around in adult suits?
Yep.
They never grew up, which is half
true.
of my issue. It's like, oh my God, these people are children. I think they're
A 3-year-old's running their finances. A 10-year-old's running their relationships. And
hey, we had 10-year-olds running these banks that collapsed.
Yes.
I want what I want, and I'm going to go take it, and I don't care what happens to anybody else. I mean, that's a kid.
Yeah.
We have people running around with that mentality, and they're supposed to be adults. And so when we're challenging them and how they're being, we're asking them to look at themselves, admit mistakes, and make some changes. And that takes courage, willingness, acknowledgement, acceptance of who you are and who you're not. Right. But our egos,
that's the thing.
Yeah.
Our egos are not going to let us say, I got a problem.
It's true.
Just keep pointing those little fingers out there, pointing those fingers.
Yeah, but what did Debbie say?
3 are pointing back at you.
There you go. You can point your finger. 1 finger's pointing out. 3 are pointing back at you.
That's right. That's
Boy,
it.
that
is the truth.
Yes.
So kind of like what advice would you give to your youngest self now that you've shared all of this and
you went through all of this,
so
a lot
much
of stuff?
What advice would you give to your youngest self?
I would probably say nothing is as it appears. Nothing is as it appears.
Great.
Stop giving assumptions and motivations to people's bad intentions. You don't know what people are going through. You don't know why people are thinking what they're thinking, and how things come out might not have even been their own intention.
Exactly.
But so don't get caught up in what things appear. Take more time, take more patience, and ask people when things are coming out sideways and crooked about their motivations and intentions.
Right,
And,
because
so right. And if I had done that, then I could have saved myself quite a few steps and not had to unscramble my life at 65
yeah,
with
yeah.
my mother at 85, who's
right.
asking, why do you need to go back in time?
Yeah, so that I can live a free
But
life.
she understands it
she
now.
does, I'm sure.
Yes,
right?
she does. And it's actually brought her freedom.
I'm sure.
And that's the thing that people need to get. If you have the courage to do this kind of work on yourself, it affects all of your relationships.
100%.
Because when you move, everybody else moves.
Well, it's funny because you'll laugh at this.
Yeah, you will.
At, let's see, 81, my dad is now going to anger management, but it's with a therapist. And, it's never too late.
Never
And
too late.
He came back and he said,
Listen to
I've got
what
the
he said.
answers
I
now.
have the answers now.
I've got it all figured out. I said, wow, you're really good. You got that.
Congratulations.
Wow.
Yeah, better late than never.
Right?
Yeah.
So you never know.
But for everybody who is willing to look and takes the time to now hold that space of love and joy and oneness and peace, it changes the vibration of our planet for everybody who's able to do it.
Yep.
And that's what we need more than anything. We need to change and elevate the vibration of the planet, because with all the chaos that's going on, it's not as it appears.
Yes.
Chaos is giving way to this new way of being. The chaos is coming right now because that old system of people dominating one another is falling apart.
Yeah, it's all breaking down.
This whole idea that men can dominate women, or parents can dominate children, or whites can dominate blacks, or European countries can dominate African countries. Any domination is being met with resistance.
Yeah, it is.
Because
we know what resistance is.
We have all been created. We are all created equal. And this whole idea that you get to decide for me what's best for me without even talking to me won't fly anymore. Because that's not a recipe for oneness. That's not a recipe for harmony. That's not a recipe for peace.
Oh, I love it. You just gave me the chills.
That's beautiful,
That is
Robin.
so true.
It is.
Oh my God. Wow.
So what would you say is the one book that totally inspired you?
Wow. I have 3 books that I read religiously and just make reference to them. But I think the one book right now that's coming to me is A Course in Miracles.
Marianne.
And A Course in Miracles, the workbook section that begins with nothing that we see means anything. Yeah. We give everything all the meaning that it has. We're not upset for the reasons that we think. We are upset because we are seeing only the past.
Yeah. What does Debbie say? We're meaning-making machines.
We're meaning-making machines. Meaning-making machines.
We are. And through my meditations and through the Course in the Miracles reading, what I've come to fundamentally believe, like seriously believe, is that the essence of who we are, it's like steam, it's like smoke. It's not the physical body. And all of our time and attention is being given to the protection of the physical body. So if we could disconnect from that, then and tune into the essence of who we really are, then from that place we can constructively create what we need in the physical. There is nothing, none of the clothes you're wearing, none of the furniture you're sitting on, none of the houses we live in, nothing. Everything came from the mind of somebody within. So it's the mind, the inventions, the creations. It's coming from within people to the outer world. If we can begin to tap into within and bring it forward, we will have what we need to really thrive in the physical, because we're not these bodies. We're not limited by that.
Yeah, and it's funny because I was just sharing with a client today that, we put so much, and I remember even Debbie saying, we put so much emphasis on the body, and it's just a shell.
Yeah.
For God's sake.
Yeah.
It's just a shell. But we are so driven to be body imaged, like it's unbelievable the way you look, if your hair, your face, your clothing, your body, and it's just like if you look at the core.
That's partly what's breaking down.
Yeah, I mean,
that's partly what's this whole self-image thing. One of the problems that high-end stores, Lord and Taylor's, Macy's, Bloomingdale's, one of the problems they're having is the Gen Zers don't care. They're not buying all of the designer everything anymore. They're like, so whatever, we'll take knockoffs, it's fine.
Yeah.
Thrift stores.
The thrift stores.
Yep.
So everybody is redefining who they are, and we're so much more than what we are allowing ourselves to be, because we're defining ourselves by the tangible physical realities of what we have and what we have access to. We're so much more than that.
Yeah, and it's just like so limiting.
It is limited.
It's
Right,
like
you can't live in joy with that kind of.
No, God, you're so limited in that way, for sure. What were you going to say, Mom?
No, I believe me, I grew up with Twiggy. So can I tell you?
Oh my God.
And look at, I was chubby, and it was not easy. Now I see it's shifted tremendously today. In that body
issues. There's still issues with body imaging that's going on online, but they do have at least some other options to say that I'm more than just that.
Yes, totally.
So it's kind of interesting, but it's kind of you're sharing about your mom, and I'm just curious, what did you enjoy the most about your childhood?
What did I enjoy the most? Well, I'll tell anybody who's willing to listen. I grew up in utopia, which is probably why I function like I do. I grew up in utopia. I grew up in a Philadelphia community where 3 different streets came together and formed a backyard. Wow. And at the time I grew up, there were all of these children. My mother says there were about 50 of us. The parents would just open the back door and everybody go out. There were no parents involved in what we did. Wow. But everybody helped everybody. Yeah. People taught me how to ride a bike, and I just found out from an old neighbor that he said I taught him on his brother's bike.
That's so cool.
Jump rope. We had ball, football, basketball, cheerleading. We had running and we had everything.
Do you think that we can get
everybody, from the youngest kids to the older ones? And so nobody was excluded. And if there were any fights that broke out, people allowed them to hash it out. And then there was somebody who was always a peacemaker. Okay, now you guys have said it. Let's come together. And then we'd play. Kids get over things.
Yeah.
So I lived in that. I grew up in that until junior high, when my mother remarried and had to move out of the city to the suburbs. But so I grew up in it with a fundamental belief that we can get along, that we can have differences, but we can share and we can give to one another. I mean, it's an amazing way to live.
And I grew up in the same kind of realm too. I did.
It's true.
Because we all supported each other. Didn't mean we always agreed, but we'd play outside, we'd all go biking, and we would play basketball or kickball.
Right.
It was just it was so much more community based.
Yes, it was.
And organic.
Yeah.
Right.
It was like one hand washes the other. You got my back, I got your back.
I would love to see that happen again. I really would. Oh God, it would be such a great thing for everybody to just connect on such a beautiful level of neighborhood. my neighbor, let me help you. You
Yeah.
want, it's just not like
it's
that.
so disconnected.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
But community is on the rise again because
Yes.
it has to be.
Yeah.
It has for our mutual survival. Community has to rise again. We have to begin to be concerned again about not just me, mine, and we have to be concerned about ours and us and everybody. It's not enough just because your family's fine not to worry about your neighbors.
Correct.
Yeah, exactly.
Not to even know who they are.
That's true.
That's exactly.
Not knowing about that's not even knowing their names. Can we start there?
You meet your neighbors as you're moving out.
Yes. Well, I didn't know
I
you
never
lived
saw
there.
you before. Who are you? Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So if you were able to change the world as it is today, right? What changes would you make and why?
Well, I think we're talking about it.
Right. Is there
I
any
think
other
it's
thing
connection.
that you think?
I think it's connection. If I had the magic wand, then what I would do is I would first allow everyone, which is kind of what's happening now, to express out their anger and frustration and hurt and pain. And then I take the wand and now affirm that everyone's heart is healed. And from our healed hearts, now we don't have to be afraid to share and to care and to love and to be in connection and community again. That's what I think.
Yeah.
I'd be
I
able to.
think that is such a great release for people to really be able to do that. There was something many, many years ago where somebody had taken people into a room and they had plates and they gave them the opportunity to smash those plates against the wall. And I tell you that, you saw them when they went in, you saw them when they came out, and they were like, oh my God, they lost like 10 years off their life.
It reminds me of the rooms they had.
Yeah.
They have those rooms now where you wear glasses and you take a bat and you slam and you bang and I forget.
We have anger issues because things that have happened to all of us that we perceive as unfair, unjust, but we have no way to get that out of us.
To release, yeah.
Especially if you don't go through coaching.
That's right.
Daughter dynamic duo. If you don't go through coaching or some process, you can't get that emotion out, and then it builds up, and then you lose control.
And it could be
you're trying. Something happens. It's the straw that breaks the camel's back.
Yeah.
You go.
And it could be just something as simple as writing a letter to yourself, an anger letter saying, I am angry at myself for. Something so little to get, you said earlier, to get it out of your system, out of your body and on paper, and then just rip it up. It's powerful. Funny. It's powerful. You know this, right?
Many, many, many years ago.
How many anger letters have you wrote? 1,000,001? Jesus. I could write a book about it.
I remember Debbie saying, I want you to go home. I want you to take a plastic bat and I want you to bat your bed.
Bat the pillow.
And it was a water bed at that time.
Ooh.
And also play this
like 9 Inch Nails, some hardcore music.
And I had gloves. I was ready to really go for it. And I can't tell you, I had to set a timer, an egg timer, for I don't know how long. And I had to do it every single day.
She used to give us that.
And I was every day, and I would make sure no neighbors were around because if they heard me going and releasing, but it was so
cathartic,
right?
It was like such a relief and a release that it was like it was really. Snot was coming out of my nose, but I was so into it. I was so
committed.
Yeah,
and it's so true because. Think about all the people walking around with this undigested anger and how that manifests, right, in the body with dis-ease. I mean,
Not only that, but it's being projected out. That's why we have such
Oh,
of
without a
course,
doubt.
the projection.
you know,
is-
even the youngest children. We just had 4 or 5 girls arrested between the ages of 11 and 14 because they were walking down the street in Philadelphia, and I don't know what the encounter was, but they ended up beating a lady to death. Really? Seriously?
Wow.
The
Yeah, that
level of
just shows
anger,
you.
and it's intergenerational trauma that's also being passed down.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
You know, because we've got, because I asked my mom about her child rearing skills there. Well, that's just how we did it. And yes, and you were wrong. And it stops now. But yeah, we have this intergenerational trauma that's going on with people as well that has to be interrupted. We've got to have ways to support people that are going through things that don't even know that they've got that level of anger inside of them.
That's
Until
correct.
something happens and they can't control it.
And do you remember? I remember when we started again with Debbie and we started to do some anger release work, right?
Yes.
And you didn't realize how freaking angry you were until you started
Yes.
seeing all the areas in which you're angry. And
But wait, but this is fascinating. The first time I went to one of Debbie's weekend programs and they were going to do that, I went to my room, and when I came back, the door was locked. So I couldn't get in to do it. The next time I went, I didn't want to go. And she says, I don't care, you must. So I went in, and the level of anger that I was timid initially, I would barely get words out around my anger. And by the end of the session, I was hollering and screaming, and they were forever trying to put me back in my spot.
And it's so
true.
true because, we say that people say, oh my God, you all look so young. It's because we release so much emotion that's been digested that we become freer and freer. We look younger and younger.
Yeah.
Yes, we do.
Because you're not, when you're angry, how does your face look?
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Right? How does your body move? I mean,
Right.
it's really astounding that when you keep releasing emotion, you become lighter and lighter,
you do.
happier and happier, and more joy.
And then you just fly away.
And then you're like wings.
Yeah, but not only that, but like I said, because I was able to work through some issues with my mother, one of the things that happened to me was when I got access to my anger, it altered my need for sugar.
Yeah,
Because I used to feel I had to do whatever authority told me.
Yeah.
And I'd be mad and angry. I would do it anyway, but then I would eat cookies, ice cream, cake, pie, whatever. But once I got that cleared and resolved, the need for sugar and to eat sugar like that just went away. So a lot of people are talking about diets. Well, deal with your anger, deal with the emotion that's undigested, as Alicia's saying, and that will help you with your diet.
Yeah, because you're just saying a perfect thing. Whether you're a sugar addict, whether you're a drinker, a smoker, it's all just trying to grasp at something to avoid that feeling.
It numbs you.
It's
a numbing.
It numbs you.
Numbing.
Yeah. So I just say,
hallelujah,
free
baby.
yourself up. Oh my God, Robin, look at the time. We love you. This has been amazing as always.
It's been a pleasure, ladies.
Oh, and rock. And so what were you going to say?
I was going to say, where can everybody find you and the book?
And your new book.
All right. So you can check my website, www.eta2oneness.com. That's ETA, the number 2, ONENESS.com. The book is there. The new online curriculum is going to be there starting in April. And you can email me if you want a free coaching session to begin to see what some of your issues are. That is also on the website at robinjohnson@eta2oneness.com. So any way you care to reach out, I am open and willing to support you.
Wow. Oh, they'll be so lucky.
Yes, they would be. Absolutely.
So we, again, we celebrate
Yeah,
everything
Dorothy,
you're doing in the
love you.
world. And oh my God, so glad you're doing it because the world, as
Needs
we
it.
know, needs you.
Yeah, totally.
And they need what you have because you can help them.
And what a great person to take those people on a journey back to themselves.
And really generational.
Back
You
to
know, they all have
themselves.
generational stuff.
Yeah.
Generational, right?
Yep. So fabulous, Robin. We
so
are so
we
blessed.
love you.
I love you girls too.
And we're so grateful.
It's
for
been
you.
a pleasure hanging out
Our
with you.
pleasure.
And I'm
So,
sure people have benefited greatly from what you're doing in this podcast series because it's all helpful.
Well, thank you, Rob.
Thank you.
We
So,
appreciate it. All right.
So-
Until we meet again.
From our
Hearts
hearts to
to
your
your
hearts, the
the
queens
queens
of
of
hearts.
hearts.